You dial 911 because something is suddenly off. Your smile feels crooked. Your words feel thick, like your tongue
What's
forgot how to
happening?
move.
Are you all
One side
right?
of your body doesn't quite listen. Minutes later, you're on a stretcher.
Where am
Bright
I?
lights overhead.
What's
The
happening?
ceiling slides past. You hear beeping, shoes squeaking, voices firing questions at you faster than you can answer. Can you smile for me? Lift both arms. What time did this start? You're scared, you're confused, and underneath all of that, there's one loud thought. What is actually happening to me right now? That's what we're going to unpack together today. I want to walk you calmly and clearly through what really happens step by step when you come to the hospital with a possible stroke, so that if this ever happens to you or someone you love, fear doesn't get the final say. And stay with me all the way to the end, because I'm going to give you a simple stroke emergency script. Basically, one sentence you can say to 911 that quietly changes everything. And let me ask you something, just between us. If this happened to you tonight, do you have any idea what you'd actually say to 911? Or would you just freeze and hope it goes away? Here's the hard truth most people never hear from a doctor's office. With stroke, there is a clock running on your brain. You'll sometimes hear professionals say, "Time is brain." The faster you get to the right hospital, the more brain cells they can potentially save. Guidelines from groups like the American Heart Association and American Stroke Association even set specific time goals. Things like getting brain imaging within about 25 minutes and, when it's safe, starting clot-busting treatment within about 60 minutes of arrival. But here's the twist. That hospital clock doesn't start when you roll through the ER doors. Your stroke timeline starts at the exact moment your symptoms begin. The first slurred word, the first droop of your face, the first time your arm won't cooperate. That's why knowing the process matters just as much as knowing the symptoms. Now, if you're over 40, you've probably had this thought. I don't want to go to the ER unless I'm really dying. So people hesitate. They think, I'll just wait and see if this goes away. What if they make me sit there for 6 hours and then tell me it's nothing? I don't want to be dramatic. What if they find something scary on the scan? That hesitation is part of why so many strokes arrive too late for the best treatment options. We don't recognize what's happening, and even when we do, we're scared of bothering the system. Meanwhile, the stroke clock keeps ticking. My opinion? After 40, not understanding how stroke is handled in the ER is like living in a house and never learning where the fire exits are. You hope you'll never need it, but if you do, that knowledge is everything. In this video, I'm not trying to turn you into a mini neurologist. You don't need to memorize drug names or read CT scans. What you do need is a simple mental map. What happens from the moment you dial 911? What the ambulance crew is actually doing? Why the hospital seems to move at fast forward when they suspect a stroke? And how all of that links back to one question. Do we still have time to treat this safely? What I'm about to describe is based on how modern stroke systems of care work in many places, including protocols shared by the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and major stroke centers. Details can vary from hospital to hospital, but the core steps, fast recognition, fast imaging, fast treatment decisions, are surprisingly similar. So before we go further, let me ask you a second thing. Would you rather try to figure all of this out at 2 a.m. on Google, or learn it now, calmly, when your brain isn't in crisis? If you're over 40 and you'd rather understand this before something happens, this channel is built for you. We take hospital-level information and translate it into calm, practical English you can actually use. No medical school degree required.
If that sounds helpful, go ahead and subscribe now. Not because it helps a channel, but because the next time life throws a health scare at you, I want you walking into the ER with a mental map instead of pure panic. All right, Take a breath. Now that you know why this timeline matters, let's zoom all the way back to the very first move on the board, the moment you pick up the phone and dial 911. So let's zoom in on that moment. You've noticed a face droop, a weird slur, an arm that won't cooperate. Your heart is pounding, your brain is arguing with itself. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe they'll laugh at me. Maybe I should wait. And then, either out of courage or pure fear, you grab the phone and dial 911. On the other end, the dispatcher is not just taking a call. They're already sorting you into paths in their head. Is this chest pain, trauma, a stroke? Is this something where seconds matter? They'll ask what's going on, and this is where your words can quietly change everything. Instead of saying, my wife feels weird, imagine you say this: "We think this is a stroke. Sudden face drooping and slurred speech started at about 7:10 p.m. You've just handed them 3 golden pieces of information. You said the word stroke. You named specific symptoms. And you gave a time, when it started, not when you finally decided to call. That time is what doctors later call last known well. It sounds technical, but it's simple. When was the last moment this person was completely their normal self? The dispatcher may walk you through a quick stroke screen without calling it that. Can they smile? Can they raise both arms? Can they say a simple sentence? While you're answering, they may already be flagging the call so the ambulance crew knows possible stroke. In many systems, that one phrase can light up a stroke alert all the way down the chain, long before you ever see a hospital ceiling. Let me push you a bit here. If someone you love suddenly slumped on the couch tonight, could you tell 911 exactly when they were last normal? Or would you realize nobody was really paying attention to the clock? This is why I keep saying stroke care is a team sport. You're not a bystander. You're part of the system. Your words either speed things up or accidentally slow them down. Now, the ambulance arrives. The door slides open and suddenly strangers are in your living room. It feels intrusive, and yet there's a strange relief. Okay, someone else is in charge now. On the stretcher or in the back of the ambulance, it can feel like chaos. Blood pressure cuffs squeezing your arm, a clip on your finger, a monitor beeping, someone poking your finger for a blood sugar check. They may ask you to squeeze their hands, push your feet against their palms, repeat a sentence, smile, or follow their finger with your eyes. From the outside, that looks like busy work. From their perspective, it's a rapid-fire checklist. Are you breathing okay? Is your blood pressure dangerously high or low? Is your oxygen okay? Is your blood sugar way off, which can mimic a stroke? How bad are the symptoms, and are they getting better, worse, or staying the same? And while they're doing all that, one of them is often already talking to the hospital. We're bringing in a possible stroke, slurred speech and right-sided weakness, last known well 7:10 p.m., blood pressure X, blood sugar Y, ETA 8 minutes. That one call lets the ER and the stroke team start preparing before you arrive. They can clear a CT scanner, notify a neurologist, and be ready to move the second you hit the door. Think about that. While you're bumping along in the back of a truck, feeling scared and small, a whole invisible machine is spinning up on your behalf. And I want to hear from you on this part, because real experiences beat any textbook. Have you ever called 911 for yourself or for someone else with a stroke scare? If you're comfortable sharing, what was one thing that surprised you about that first part? The call or the ambulance? If you're okay talking about it, start your comment with "stroke story" and then share just one thing. Your story in the comments might be the thing that convinces someone else not to wait it out when it really counts. Here's the big mindset shift I want you to take from this section. When you call 911 and use clear, specific language, you're not bothering anyone. You're flipping the switch on a system that is literally built to race the stroke clock with you. In the next phase, that race gets even more intense. The ambulance doors open, you roll into the hospital, and it can feel like you're being swallowed by a machine. Triage questions, wristbands, bright lights, more hands, more voices. So let's talk about that. The ambulance backs up to the hospital doors. They swing open, and suddenly you're moving fast, past people in chairs, past the waiting room, straight toward bright lights and double doors. If the team suspects a stroke, your path is often very different from a normal ER visit. There may be no sitting in the waiting room, no forms first, no take a number. You're rolled straight into a critical care area or even directly toward the CT scanner because the stroke clock hasn't stopped ticking. Someone is walking alongside your stretcher, talking quickly. When did this start? Any blood thinners? History of high blood pressure, diabetes, atrial fibrillation? If you're awake, they'll ask you. If you're not, they'll ask whoever came with you. This is where that simple, boring stuff, the list of meds, the last known well time, suddenly becomes life and death information. A nurse might repeat the questions you feel like you've already answered 3 times. That's not because they're not listening. It's because in stroke care, they're trying to build a clear picture fast. Exactly when were you last your normal self? What symptoms came first? Do you take anything that could make bleeding more likely? Do you have conditions that change risk, like atrial fibrillation or diabetes? Then comes the part that scares a lot of people, the brain scan. For many suspected strokes, the first big test is a CT scan, a kind of super fast X-ray of your head. You're moved onto a narrow table, your head is positioned, and the machine slides you into a donut-shaped ring. It may feel cold and impersonal, but here's what's really happening. That scan is trying to answer one crucial question. Is this a stroke caused by a clot blocking blood flow or a stroke caused by bleeding in the brain? Quick pause here because I want to clear up one really common fear. A lot of people imagine the CT scan as this huge, painful, claustrophobic tunnel. Reality? It's quick, it doesn't hurt, and the main job is just to answer one big yes or no question. Is there bleeding or is there a clot? Once you know that, the team can stop guessing and start making real decisions. The difference is massive for treatment. If it's a clot, what doctors call an ischemic stroke, certain clot-busting medications or clot removal procedures might be options. If it's bleeding, a hemorrhagic stroke, those same medications could be dangerous and make things worse. While the scan is happening, your brain may be spinning. Is this permanent? Will I walk out of here? Will I still be myself? And here's the part we almost never talk about openly. In those minutes, doctors and nurses are having their own urgent conversation, not about you as a case, but about you as a person whose clock they're trying to beat. They're asking, 1. Does this really look like a stroke? 2. What kind of stroke is it? 3. Based on the time symptoms started, do we still have a safe treatment window? In many hospitals, a whole stroke team snaps into place when you arrive. Emergency doctors, a neurologist or stroke specialist, radiology staff to read the scan, nurses, sometimes an intensive care specialist or an interventionalist who does clot removal procedures. To you, it feels like a blur of faces leaning over you. To them, it's a coordinated sprint. Someone might be calculating a stroke scale score, asking you to move arms and legs, check your vision, follow commands to get a quick sense of how severe the stroke is. Another person is drawing blood. Another is double-checking your medications and allergies. You are not expected to remember the one brutal, time-pressured decision. Can we safely give a clot-busting medicine? Does this person need to be transferred or rushed to a special lab for a mechanical thrombectomy, where a specialist threads a tiny catheter through the blood vessels to grab or suck out the clot? Or is this a type of stroke where those options are too risky or simply not effective? You are not expected to remember the names of these drugs or procedures.
That's their job. Your job happened earlier, calling 911, knowing the last known well, bringing your medication list. That's the part you control. Let me ask you this, and be really honest with yourself. Does seeing this step by step, from the call to the ambulance to the scan and the team, make you more or less afraid of going to the ER for a possible stroke? There's no right answer. For some people, understanding the process calms the fear. For others, it brings up new worries. But your answer matters because it tells you where your personal resistance is. If knowledge makes you less afraid, lean into that. If it makes you more anxious, that's a sign you might need a simple, repeatable plan instead of trying to remember every detail. Here's the core principle I want you to walk away with from this part. When the hospital feels like it's moving in fast forward, that's not a sign you're being dramatic. It's a sign they are racing the stroke clock for you. The rush is a form of care. Now we've walked through the inside of the machine, the 911 call, the ambulance, the CT scan, and the treatment decisions. In the next part, I want to turn all of this into something you can actually use under pressure. A simple checklist you can mentally pull up in the worst moment of your life. We've walked through the chaos. The 911 call, the ambulance, the ER, the brain scan, and the sprint to make a decision. Now, I want to leave you with something you can actually carry with you. A simple mental checklist you can pull up when your brain is under stress and your emotions are screaming. Think of this as your stroke emergency script. You don't have to say it perfectly. You just have to remember the shape of it. Step 1. At the first be fast sign, treat it as a stroke until proven otherwise. Be fast. Balance. Sudden trouble walking, dizziness, loss of balance. Eyes. Sudden trouble seeing out of one or both eyes. Face. One side droops when they try to smile. Arm. One arm drifts down or feels weak when both are raised. Speech. Slurred, strange, or they can't get words out. Time to call 911. Here's the rule. One sign is enough to act. You don't wait for all 6 to light up like a Christmas tree. If it's sudden and it's weird, you move. Step 2. Call 911. Don't drive yourself if you can avoid it. I know the temptation. It'll be faster if we just jump in the car. But remember what you now know. The ambulance isn't just a ride. It's early stroke screening, vital signs, blood sugar, oxygen, a direct line to the hospital with a possible stroke alert. Driving yourself might feel less dramatic, but it can cost you that head start. Step 3. Know the last known well time. As soon as you suspect stroke, glance at a clock or your phone. Ask yourself, when was the last moment this person was 100% their normal self? That's the time doctors use to decide which treatments are even on the table. If you're not sure, it's okay to say sometime between 6 and 7 p.m. But don't guess wildly. Give the most honest window you can. Step 4. Bring a simple list or phone photo of medications and conditions. This doesn't have to be fancy. A note on your phone, a screenshot, even a photo of the pill bottles. The big ones to have listed: blood thinners/anticoagulants, high blood pressure, diabetes, atrial fibrillation. All the complicated decisions happening in the ER are easier and safer when the team isn't guessing what you take. Step 5. Use clear, simple phrases with 911 and the hospital team. You do not need medical words. This is enough. Sudden face drooping and slurred speech. Started at 7:10 p.m. History of high blood pressure.
That one sentence tells them the what, droop and slur, the when, 7:10, the background, blood pressure. You've just handed them a clean starting point. Step 6. Understand that the hospital's rush is a good sign, not a bad one. If people are moving fast around you, it's not because you're being dramatic. It's because they are racing the stroke clock on your behalf. The speed, the repetition, the urgent voices, that's what it looks like when a team refuses to waste your brain's time. Now, big picture.
Everything we've walked through in this video lines up with how modern stroke systems of care work today, the way major organizations and stroke centers describe it: fast recognition, fast imaging, fast decisions. Details can change over time, and the exact steps can look different from hospital to hospital, but that core idea stays the same. Don't wait, don't guess, don't go alone. And this is where I have to say something very clearly. I am not a doctor. I am not your doctor. This video is for education, not diagnosis or treatment. It cannot replace a real evaluation. If you ever think you or someone around you might be having a stroke, don't replay this video and think about it. Call 911 or your local emergency number and get help immediately. Let me leave you with one more question, and I want you to really sit with it. Now that you've seen the whole picture, what is the one part of this plan you honestly think you'd forget in a real crisis? And what can you do today to make that part easier to remember? Maybe it's BEFS. Maybe it's last known well. Maybe it's keeping a meds list in your wallet or on your phone. Whatever your weak spot is, that's where your homework lives. Moral of the story? After 40, pretending you'll never see the inside of an ER might feel comforting, right up until the day your face droops, or your speech slips, or your partner looks at you with that scared, confused expression. You don't have to be a doctor to understand what's happening in those moments. You just need a simple mental map so that fear doesn't talk you out of calling for help. That's what this channel is here for. To turn the scariest health moments after 40 into something you can understand and act on, instead of just panic through. If this video made the ER feel even a little less terrifying, don't just click away and forget it. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this stroke series. We're going to talk about what life after a stroke can really look like, how recovery and brain plasticity work, and how to support someone you love through that long, messy middle. And in the comments, tell me one thing you feel more prepared for now. Is it calling 911 sooner? Knowing what last known well means? Or understanding why they rush you to that brain scan? Just write, "My takeaway." That one line might be exactly what someone else needs to read on the worst day of their life. In the next video, we're going to move past the emergency room and talk about what happens after the stroke, rehab, recovery, and the small wins that quietly change daily life after 40. If you or someone you love is already living with the aftermath, you won't want to miss that one.